Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we find ourselves on a crisp morning as climbers are eager to tackle the toughest bouldering problems. You'll be dodging injuries, teaming up with clever forest creatures, and most importantly, mastering each boulder problems to claim victory, winning a dream trip to the world's most iconic bouldering spots. Boulder Bluff is a competitive card game and a bouldering theme for 2 to 4 players. It takes 30 to 60 minutes to play, is for ages 8 and up, and is published by 9,000 Games. Today, we'll be doing a rule school where I'll teach you how to set up and play the game so that you don't have to read the rulebook yourself. So let's get started. In Boulder Bluff, you're trying to score the most points by completing different bouldering challenges. And you'll be playing cards, at least one face up, but some face down to allow for bluffing. But then after that, there's going to be some chalk that's going to come out of a bag. Sometimes it hurts you, sometimes it adds and helps you. So based upon trying to tackle a certain challenge, other players will decide to climb with you or not. If not, you'll get to claim this, which is 8 points at the end of the game, and you don't even have to show which cards you may or may not have been bluffing with. And once all other players had a chance to join the climb, we reveal and see what happens. And you'll be adding up strength on your cards, plus your chalk, and maybe getting a technique bonus by having all of the title bars be the same color as the challenge. With the one with the total most strength getting the card that's worth that many points at the end of the game. But if you didn't have at least this much total strength, you'll be getting injuries, which might be -1 or -2 at the end of the game. But there's also animal cards that allow you to have different tricks up your sleeve, especially with the bluffing. So let's see if you can play and bluff your way through the toughest bouldering challenges to have the most points in the end. Now before we start setting up, I want to let you know that I'm going to be using the playmat in this video. Now this playmat is available separately, or it's available in the premium edition of the game. Also, the rules that you received in your game might be outdated. On the side of the box there's a QR code that you can scan to get the latest rules, or you can just go to 9000games.com. The first thing you'll do is locate the climb cards. Now they look like this on the backside. You're going to shuffle this deck up, and you're going to deal 5 cards to each player face down. Now you can look at your cards, but you don't want to show them to anyone else. Then you're going to take that deck and you're going to place it in the moves and action spots on the playmat. Now the spots are actually smaller than the cards, and this is by design, and this is so that the playmat is small and portable. Next, you'll find the boulder cards that have this blue back. You'll shuffle these cards. You'll place that face down on the bouldering roots section of the mat, and you'll place the top 3 cards face up below it. Next, you'll locate the 10 injury tokens. They have a hand on one side and a shoulder on the other side. It doesn't matter which sides they are on for now. Just put them off to the side where everyone can reach them. Next, locate the 5 chalk markers as you see there on the right, and you're going to place them all into this black draw bag. Then you'll give that bag to whoever most recently climbed a boulder. They are the first player. The object of the game is to have the most points, and you're going to be scoring points by climbing as many boulder problems as you can, and the tougher the problem, the more points you'll get. Now, the player with the bag is going to take a turn, and then after that player's turn, it will go clockwise, and that keeps going this way throughout the game. But you're also going to be able to play on other players' turns, which we'll show you in just a moment. On your turn, you have 2 choices. One is you can prep. Everyone will have 5 cards at the beginning of their turn, and if you want an additional card, you would just simply draw one of these cards from your hand, so now you have 6, pass the bag to the next player, and it'll be the next player's turn. But most of the time, you're going to climb. When you climb, you're going to select one of the 3 bouldering revealed cards. In this case, we're going to select this one here. Then you're going to play as many cards as you want. Now you have to play at least one of them face up, like I did here, and I placed 2 of them face down. Again, you could play all of them face up or any amount face up, but you have to play at least one face up. Now why would we play cards face up or face down? Well, it's called Boulder Bluff for a reason, because other players don't know what these face down cards are. They could be high cards, it could be low cards. They might not even match the color of this boulder card, which is important in trying to be the one to successfully climb it. Then you're going to draw one of the chalk tokens from the bag and place it next to it, so we have a -1. Then, in clockwise order from you, each player gets to choose whether or not they're going to climb with you. And the reason why somebody would try to climb with you is because they're trying to have a total higher climbing strength than any other player this round, and if so, they're going to be able to get this card, which is going to be worth 6 points at the end of the game. But just to show the very basics of this, let's pretend we went around the table and nobody else wanted to climb with me, so it's just me. And if it is just me, that means I'm going to get this card regardless of whatever cards I put down here, nothing bad is going to happen to me. Which is why other players might want to try to climb with you, because it kind of forces you to, play pretty well, or there might be some injuries and such that I'll show you later. Because if you just let someone climb on their own, they're getting the card and they're not getting any negative ramifications from it. So then I would have placed all the cards that I played face down in a discard pile, because they never get to see what the other two cards that I played was. They only know what the face up one was. You would collect this card, which again is going to be worth 6 points in the game. This is going to refill. You'll place that chalk token back in the bag, and you'll pass the bag to the next player clockwise, and they'll start a turn. However, in this case, let's pretend that one of the other players wanted to climb with me. So they're going to do the first two steps, which is play as many cards as they want, with at least one face up, and then draw a token from the chalk bag. So let's say that player played those three cards, two of them face up and one of them face down, and a 0 for their chalk. Now we go around the table and ask anyone else, but let's say nobody else wants to climb with us. So at this point, all the cards would get revealed. So let's go through each of the players. Let's go with the first player. We look at the chalk value, -1. Then we look at the card values as long as they have a color that matches this card. Some of them have multiple colors, purple and green. All three colors, green. So all these three will add. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, -1. We're at 5. Now, if you look at the titles here, all of them have a green bar on them, and they match the green color here. If they all match, then you'll get a technique bonus of 1 point per climb card that matches. So in this case, it'll be 3 more. However, if instead we had this card, which still had green here, but did not have green here, then you get no technique bonus. So again, we have our chalk, we have our raw strength, we have our 3 technique bonus, but then there's possible fatigue. If you've already climbed a boulder card with the title that has the same color, like this is green, if earlier in the game we had collected this card because we climbed it, you would get a -1 for fatigue. Even this card here has both purple and green on it, but because the title's green, I would have, if I had done this earlier, this would also be a -1. If I had done both of these, it'd be a -1 for both of them. But in this case, it's our first climb, so we don't have to worry about fatigue. So in this case, in total, we have 8. That's 6 from the raw strength, 3 for the technique bonus, -1 from the chalk bag. Now we look at the other player. They'd have raw strength of a total of 4. They have 0 for the chalk, and they did not get the technique bonus. They did not have any cards that they completed before, so their total value is 4. Now whoever has the total highest strength now gets the card. If it's tied, and the player whose turn it is tied, that player gets it. If there are multiple players going for it, and the players tied are not the player whose turn it is, then the player whose turn it is basically names a physical tiebreaker challenge, like push-ups, sit-ups, or squats, and whoever does the most wins the tie. Now it's important to note that I could have won this, even with these sets of cards, because I would have had a strength of 3, 4, 5, 6, -1 is 5. Because this was orange, it did not match green, I did not get the technique bonus. Let's say I had no fatigue from earlier climbs. This person still had 4. I still beat them 5-4, but my 5 is less than the 6. I would still win the card. At this point, whoever has less total strength than the card might take an injury, which means you can still get the card and get an injury. So let's say we got the card, we place this in front of us. You'll take an injury token and you'll flip it like a coin. And this is a finger injury. It'll go on a card that does not yet have an injury, like this. Now that finger injury is going to be worth -1 points at the end of the game. If it was a shoulder injury, it'd be worth -2 points at the end of the game. However, you might need to take an injury when you don't have any boulder cards that don't have any injuries. And in this case, you take an injury token like normal, and you flip it like normal. Now, if it's a finger, then nothing happens. You just don't get this injury. However, if you flip it and it's a shoulder, you must replace one of the finger injuries on a card that you have already claimed. So in this case, this would go out back into the supply, and now that's that. So that essentially gave me another negative point because that's worth -2 at the end of the game. And note that since all of this player's boulder cards have a shoulder injury, meaning they can't take any more injuries as we see it now. So if this player in the future climbed a route that also had less total strength than needed, but didn't win the boulder card by having the most strength among players, they couldn't take another injury. So therefore, they could afford to take more risks. Now let's rewind a minute to show the player on the bottom also had a total strength less than 6 on the boulder card. But this player didn't yet have a previously won boulder card, so they don't take an injury. Therefore, you can take some more risks in these cases. Lastly, sometimes injuries are worth it to win the route or to refresh your hand with new cards at the end of the turn, and speaking of that, let's go over the end of the turn. And at that point, you'd put the chalk tokens back in the bag, and all of these cards would go face down in the discard pile. You would reveal a new Boulder card. You'll also deal each player as many cards needed to refill their hands to 5. Now, if someone still has 6 cards in their hand because they prepped, they keep all 6. But let's say someone prepped before and had 6 cards, but then played and only have 3 left. Now in this case, they would draw 2 to get back to 5. So the prepping is a temporary boost, it's not increasing their hand limit throughout the remainder of the game. Now if the draw deck for the climb cards ever gets depleted, you'll shuffle the discard pile, create a new deck, and make sure everybody has 5 cards in their hand. And then you'd pass the bag to the next player on the left, it's their turn. Some routes have a value of 12, like this one. This acts entirely as a purple route in terms of technique bonus, fatigue, etc. But you can also play orange cards. As you can see, there's orange colored behind the purple on it. Now there's only 3 12s in the game, and these are really tough boulders. Now you could play only purple cards and use the technique bonus, or you could do a complete mix of cards of oranges and purples. So let's talk about strategy for just a moment. Let's say a player is going for this one, and this is what they placed. Well, what are they doing? It's called Boulder Bluff for a reason. This one card, do they really have not a lot of good cards here? Maybe they're all ones. Maybe none of them match and they're all ones. They might have a very low total here, but the other players don't know that. But they might be bluffing, hoping that other players maybe don't join. Because again, if you don't join, well, you're going to get this card, and you don't gain any injuries even if your total was lower than that. So this might be a play where you might be bluffing, but you might actually have a really strong hand and you're trying to get them to come because you're still going to possibly win it because you know you have a strong hand, and the other players are going to end up possibly taking injuries. Or maybe instead you show a strong card and you're trying to, again, scare people off from not coming along with you. Maybe these are all ones and maybe you still have a sort of a weak climb, but you're trying to scare the other players off from not joining you because, again, you're just going to get that card anyway with no injuries. Since people place their cards and the chalk token, then it goes around clockwise, other players see at least one face-up card and one chalk token, so they can estimate if they should join or not, because they know what tokens are still in the bag. So if you're forced to go out on a climb, you have a lot more information than if you're second, and this is a bit similar to poker. Now there are some types of cards that I have not yet talked about. That's animal cards. Let's pretend that another player came climbing along with us, and let's just say their cards are just below mine. We just can't see them in frame right now. And let's say it was time to reveal our cards. Now, let's take a look at this animal card. It's a lucky deer, and it triples the chalk token value for this turn. So it went from +1 to +3. Plus this 3, plus this 1, and so we have 7. And also, we have the technique bonus, because both of these are orange. We're going for an orange card. Even though this is not orange, it's okay, because it's an animal card that does not stop you from getting the possible technique bonus. And keep in mind, the animal cards can be played face down or face up, and regardless, there are mandatory actions when you reveal all your cards. And there are other animals in the base game, but you simply just follow the instructions on the card. Now, if I really wanted to mess with people's heads, I could have done something like this. Now, you play the cards face up or face down before you get to see what the chalk token is, but maybe I just luckily did this and I got the +1 and everyone is like, uh-oh, they have a +3 chalk. I don't know what these are, but I probably don't want to come. These could be ones for all they know, and I could be, claiming that card with no competition. Turns will continue in clockwise order until the Boulder card deck depletes, leaving 3 unclaimed Boulder cards in the row, and this next climb will be the last one. And at the end of the game, you're going to count up all the points on your claimed Boulder cards, -1 point for each finger injury, -2 points for each shoulder injury, and that's your total points. So in this case, I have 23 points. Whoever has the most points is the winner. If players are tied, whichever of those tied players had claimed the last Boulder card wins. There's also a variant you can play once you're experienced with the game, dealing with injuries different. Instead of them acting as negative points scoring at the end of the game, they actually hurt your climb score. So when you're coming up with your total strength, like here we have 3, 6, 7, 8, we have the technique bonus. So 9, 10, 11, we were going for this one. Right now we have 11. We needed at least 8 to get this without any injuries. This is now -3, and this is now -2. So essentially they act as if they're one more minus than they used to be when you use them for score, but they count towards your strength. So I normally would have had 11 total strength here, but now -3, -2, which is -5 in total, I only have 6. which is less than this, which means I would take another injury after taking this card. Now, of course, that's only if another player came along with me and climbed with me, because when you climb by yourself, you never get injuries. Also, if you have multiple routes that don't have injuries, you can choose which one gets the injury, which is important since you can choose which color routes you make more difficult for yourself. There's also the Animal Kingdom expansion pack that comes with 8 animal cards. Now, you can buy this separately, or it also comes with the premium edition. Now, in order to play with these, you'll take the cards from the new expansion and all of the animal cards from the base game. This will be a total of 14 cards, and you're going to shuffle them together. You'll then remove 8 cards from that deck, leaving 6 left, and you'll shuffle those 6 animal cards left with the normal climb cards from the base game. This adds replayability since you always have different combinations of animals. Sometimes there will be 1 snake, sometimes more. You can also decide to select 6 animal cards instead of it being random if you choose. Now simply follow the instructions on each of the new animal cards, but I am going to go over how the sneaky snake works. The sneaky snake must be placed face down. Then, right before cards are revealed, any sneaky snake cards that are face down must be face up. And then there's going to be a tension-filled countdown. So you're going to go 3, 2, 1, and then both players either leave their cards there or they pick them up. And this happens sort of simultaneously, saying you want to be out of the climb. The easiest and cleanest way to do this is everyone places their hand on the cards they put in, and then on the countdown they either pull them back physically or they just leave their hand on them to stay in the climb. Also, regardless of how many players played a sneaky snake card, when the countdown finishes, all players must simultaneously decide if they're staying in the climb or not. Now, if they both stayed in, you would resolve things as normal. If only one player remained, you treat it as they claim the boulder card without revealing their climb cards, and you skip to the last step of resolving a climb. And sometimes everyone might get out of the climb because this is a simultaneous thing, and you simply return all the chalk tokens to the bag. So the sneaky snake cards really up the game of the bluffing in Boulder Bluff. Well, I hope this helped you dive right into Boulder Bluff faster than you normally would if you had to read the rulebook yourself. Now, if you have further questions about the rules, there's a link below me right in the description of this video. Now, that's the best place to ask them because I'll be notified, but so will 9,000 Games.